I'm testing out the new camera, so I don't know what the lighting situation is going to be, and I'm just testing out a new video. So I thought what I would do, and I'm sorry I haven't brushed my hair today, probably because it's all been braided up and I've had other stuff to do, and some of you may or may not know that my mom's in hospital, so I've been dealing with that in terms of all kinds of interesting things that I have to do. Health insurance, you know what it's like. But in the meantime, I've just been trying to keep my own life going. I'm behind on everything, but oh, there it goes again. I don't know why this lighting is so bad. But I started reading my Christmas book pile, and I thought I might make a video about one of the books that I just finished reading, which is this one. I kind of love that kind of fantasy, which is why I went for this. It's historical fantasy, it's ancient Greece, it's a strong female protagonist, it pushes all my buttons. So I basically, and I heard lots of good things about it, so I picked up the book and I decided to try it. I got it for Christmas on the top of my pile. So I just finished it I just finished it today. And well, I have issues. I don't know whether you just get fussy when you start writing stuff and you start reading things and you can't quite turn off the writer. But here's the thing. Oh, and this is going to be fairly spoilery, so if you don't want to know anything about it at this point, basically, sorry. You might have known the story of Odysseus and Circe, and there's nothing new in this book. I mean, it's a myth. It's mythology. It's well-known mythology. Most of us cut our teeth on ancient Greek mythology, ancient gods, and what have you. And most of us who know the story, who know the Odyssey and the Iliad, and have heard of the enchantress called Circe and her island in which she turned men into pigs. And this is dealing with that situation. So it's all very familiar. It's solid, well-trodden ground. It's not something that is pure invention. This is not your secondary world fantasy that's built out of some fantasy writer's own mind or own world, essentially. This is all very familiar. I mean, if you haven't heard about the Olympian gods and, Zeus and Hera and Athena and Apollo and all that, you really, you haven't really, it's part of the basic bedrock of Western culture, and at least you at least heard of the names. And if you didn't know about the war between the Titans and the Olympian gods, if you didn't know the details, some of it might be new to you. But of course, I cut my teeth on fantasy and on mythology, so I kind of know all of the background of this. I'm very familiar with it. So what was interesting is that what was possibly new, I'm not sure that I knew this or if this was pure invention, but she has made, the author, who is Madeline Miller, has made Circe the daughter of Helios, the Titan sun god, as opposed to the Olympian sun god, as opposed to Apollo. So she is daughter of the sun god and a nymph whose other roots lie very solidly in a sort of water god type of realm. So that becomes important in this story. So here's my issue here. This is a first-person narrative, so there's that. There's nothing wrong with first-person narratives. It can work very well. It can work really well. I mean, I've read some first-person books that were gripping, but this one, I'm just not entirely sure. There's too much going on. she's talking about gods being omniscient, and she's not fully a god, which is fine, but she's also not omniscient, and she's at some point exiled to her island, and then it's a question of a relationship that I honestly don't think I've seen before with her and Hermes, which who is the messenger of the gods, who basically comes in to see her on her exile on an island, and who literally serves as the messenger. He brings her the gossip from out there, and that's how she knows what's going on. But she herself is very limited in her knowledge. She's not your omniscient god. She can't look out and see everything, know everything. So there's, in this instance, she's supposed to be a divine character, a godlike creature, but she's limited in this kind of context, and it just makes it difficult for her to agent. Things happen to her, basically, and then she picks up something and does something, and she creates a monster like Scylla. You've heard of Scylla and Charybdis, I mean, haven't you? The monster and the whirlpool. But in this book she creates the monster called Scylla out of an ornery nymph that she doesn't like, and that's the guilt of her life. And I mean, there's some kind of the background character stuff. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, my days of Greek mythology are a little bit behind me, and I'd probably need to look a lot of this up, but I'm not sure that I knew that Circe was the one who did all this, or that she was basically that kind of a basic witch, the kind of witch that brews up herbs and potions and stuff like that, as opposed to being a god. I'm not quite sure that first person was the right choice for this, but again, that's a personal thing, so you might like it better. I think that if ever there was a case to be made for omniscient, it's here, because of all the omniscience that's going around. It's a book about gods. But having said that, the other thing that happens in this book is that this is a story about gods, but they are anthropomorphized in a major way, and in the end it becomes rather more soap opera-ish than it should be. And gods they probably are. I've never met one, so I wouldn't know, but in this book they end up sounding a lot like a bunch of very peevish, very entitled humans. Think a gated community which thinks that knows what's best for everybody and basically squabbles within itself about stuff like that, but essentially knowing nothing at all. I don't know. There are a lot of ways that gods are alien. They just are. They don't think like us, or they shouldn't think like us. And in the meantime, she's the heroine here is basically living in a dysfunctional family. Okay, let's face it, most gods have dysfunctional families. That comes with the territory, probably. But this is portrayed as a very mortal kind of thing. We recognize this, and I suppose in some way this was written for mortals, so the fact that the mortals can identify with it is not all bad. But I'm also reading a book about a goddess or a demigoddess, and I'd like to know how or why she's different from me, and what kind of attitudes govern her, because she is immortal and invulnerable in one sense, although she's not, because of course, okay, pet peeve, she's of course raped in this book. They all are. it's a good book. I enjoyed the book. I enjoyed the story. I just felt like there should have been more. It's a good book. It's an adequate book. It's entertaining. But in the end, it just kind of left me a little bit meh. I need to know more. And this book is at once too little and too much. It's too little of what is necessary to make me identify with that kind of alien creature. And I mean, I've read a lot of science fiction. There's lots of aliens out there. It's not a new thing. It's not that hard to do. You can create characters who don't think like us, who don't react like us, to whom things that are important to us as humans are not necessarily as important as they are to them. But in the end, she creates a character who is small-minded, in one sense, which kind of makes me resent her. There's a fair amount of whining in this book. Now again, if you are born in that kind of context, I suppose you could see yourself whine. You're basically being ignored, and if you're not a major god, you're nothing. So yeah, I can see that. I can see all of that. But it's just that then she starts talking about, oh my, look how put upon I am, and in the end, it just feels very self-centered, which doesn't make me root for her in any kind of way. There's also the matter of Odysseus, and I appreciate what was attempted here. The attempt was to create Odysseus as a character, as a real person, as a human man. So that's where the feet of clay came in. But damn it, I grew up with the Odyssey. and this Odysseus is kind of startling, because once again, by the end of the book, you lose the sympathy for a hero that was supposed to be a hero of its own story. I don't know. It's just very fractured in a way. Again, it's a good, solid, entertaining book. I kind of read it pretty much in over 3 nights. I just picked up the book and read it. It's easy to read. It's an easy read. It's well written. There's nothing wrong with the book at all. But my issues are, should it have been first person? Because I'm not sure it adds, and it might detract from the story in several different ways, because of the fact that the omniscience angle is there, and also because, well, it just comes across very self-centered and whiny. As an immortal goddess who comes to terms with her own thing, she's portrayed as a strong. She stands up to Athena, the goddess who is very, very powerful. She basically stands up to her and says, "No, you can't do what you want to do because I won't let you," which is great. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure I buy the character, which is probably bad given that it's a central character, the first person protagonist. It just doesn't quite seem together. And it is a different take on a very, like I said, it's very well trodden ground. So it's a different take, a personal take by this author on a story that is really fairly well known. There's embroidery here and there. But what I'm saying is that I wanted, if she was going to do an original take on it, I wanted more originality. And if she was going to do the classic, well-known story, then she departed too much. I'm not sure what the answer is. So, but anyway, this is just a sort of mini audio review of Circe by Madeline Miller. So this is what I've been reading over the last couple of days. And also, this is a brand new video camera, so this is an experimental video. I'm just trying to find out what things look like. So if anybody wants to leave any comments about, hey, you look terrible in this video, please do, because this is a new camera and I'm still playing with it. So anyway, this is the Duchess signing off.